Hey y'all, how's it going? I hope you're vibing as much as I am. I am also posting about this at the same time because I meant to do this earlier, but time is hard sometimes. Hey TC Coder, how are you? Good to see you. It has been a busy week. All right, let's see. I got this stuff going, doing my posts. Hey, welcome. How are y'all doing? What are y'all working on? Right, now that the music's stopping, I guess I'll just talk to you like a normal human being. How's it going, y'all? Happy Thursday. Welcome back to Rubber Duck Thursdays. What y'all doing? You're doing great. Busy new job. Ooh, congrats. Python gig. Nice. Is it using any modern Python frameworks we might know? Like is it like just pure Python language stuff? Like data sciencey, or is it Django, Flask, something else? Hello. Hi. But congrats on the new job. That's exciting. What's up? Flask, nice. I haven't used Flask in years, but I've heard that the latest versions of it have been really nice, like developer experience wise. So that's good. Hope it's fun. I have been working on a bunch of random things. At GitHub we are releasing so many things all the time, always. If you ever go to our changelog, you can see that. And actually, I should be a good employee. I'm going to pull it up and actually show y'all what I'm talking about. But there's so many things that we release that it's hard to keep up with everything. And often my team is involved with supporting that and helping make it just easy for people to understand what's going on. And that involves a whole lot of communication. Hello, hi, hey, salut. Whole new world to me. Oh, you're one of those. I am too. I like those languages. Good to see you. Happy to see you as well. Hello. But yeah, if you ever let's see. This one. Yeah. If you ever want to check out the GitHub changelog, that is all of the stuff that is out in the GitHub world, where sometimes it's very small releases, sometimes it's mega releases, and it's genuinely hard to keep up with sometimes. But it's cool to see where fine-grained personal access tokens are now available. There's a new REST API support for issue types. There's new updates to the models playground. If you notice the dates on here, almost all of these were released just this week. Flexible editing, working with issues in Copilot and public preview. There's a bunch of stuff in VS Code Insiders that just came out. There's all of these different like compliance stuff for security. So many things, which has been very, very cool. But it makes for a busy time when you are helping talk to a whole lot of users and developers who have very different ideas about how things should be done and how they build things. And so anyway, it's been very cool, but whew, what a busy week. You're learning Git as well? Welcome. You're in the right place. Yeah, it's been busy. But anyway, what else are y'all working on? TC Coder's working on Python. It's a new job. You like parallax effect? Yeah, it's kind of parallaxy. Would you consider that on the left parallax? I would consider that like a sticky sidebar. But I could see it being considered parallax. I don't know. Is anybody vibe coding anything lately? Let me know. I have not. I feel like I feel like I seek too much control in my code base to fully vibe code and just let an agent do all the stuff for me, but at the same time, it is nice when it can do a little bit of the utilities that I don't feel like writing, for sure. Ooh, a quiz app with TypeScript and React. Nice. I do love a good quiz app. What are you using for your backend? Are you doing something serverless or are you building on top of something? Or is it everything just client side and you're kind of working with it? Because that could be a full client side app, depending on how you're structuring it or if you need to change the answers or not, that sort of thing, you know? Let me know. I'm curious. Something that I was just talking to a user about on Discord, I don't know if he's in this chat now, was using Copilot to generate release notes for a new release in a project. And I thought that was a very interesting concept, and I kind of want to play with it. Everything's client side for now. Nice. Yeah. That's kind of how I prefer to build. I mostly because I prefer front end. I try to do everything as client side as possible, and then I bring in a serverless or database or something where I might use dummy data or mock data or something for a while. You're jumping in a Node and TypeScript for a personal organizer app. Ooh, what kind of personal organization? Like goal tracking? Or like I love the personal organization stuff. I'm very into Obsidian, the note-taking app, and I feel like right now I kind of just use it to jot down ideas and then write blog posts, but there are times where I want it to be a full project management suite, and then other times where I'm like, this is just where I put a note and let it be. Hello. I took a break from technical news. Vibe coding and agents, new terms. Oh, you're telling me I am surrounded by it. But I think that's where we're at right now. Building a goal tracker and a scheduler. Nice, cool. Yeah, the old vibe coding concept. I ended up actually posting somewhere. I posted on Blue Sky, I think. Here, let me pull it up really quick. Where it was truly like 1 in the morning, where I was like, ha ha ha, vibe coding keyboard would just have to be one key. And so I photoshopped this myself, and then I was like, Cassidy, you have spent way too much time on this joke, and so I kind of left it at that. But it would be kind of funny, right? Because I don't know if y'all ever saw it, the Stack Overflow keyboard where you just copy and paste, where it was an April Fool's joke, I want to say in 2021, maybe 2022. I'm forgetting now. Time flies. Where the only keyboard you need is to be able to copy and paste from Stack Overflow. And I designed this. It ended up being an April Fool's joke that went way too far, and you could still buy this. Like it's a thing. But now I'm like, hey, this is the next iteration. Why have 3 keys when you could just have one? It's tab. But anyway, thought that was kind of funny. What even is vibe coding? Love that question. I actually asked this exact question on this stream, I think a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. Vibe coding, from my understanding, is not coding. It is basically hitting tab and letting AI do all the work for you. And where it was like coding apps without actually caring about the quality of the output or something like that. Yeah. That's the vibe, haha, that I get. Claude 3.7 max when? Great question. I have no idea. How do you plan out your apps? Like how do I plan out apps that I build? I tend to actually use Obsidian, my note-taking app, and I like write up a whole planning document to the point where I usually over-engineer it before ever actually building anything. I have so many project ideas that I have fleshed out that I've never even touched. I've bought a domain name for it, and I've never actually built it. But hey, maybe that's what AI is for, right? Let's see. How to work for GitHub. How do you get a job like working on GitHub itself? Apply. I think that's truly the best advice I can give you there. GitHub is a very cool company to work for, and because a lot of developers like it, We get lots of applications per role. So what I would say is apply for a role if you think it's a good fit for you, or even if you've only fit like some of the requirements, just apply. If you do get rejected on without a call or anything, apply again for another role, because we are always hiring. There's always roles that go up and go down and stuff, and sometimes you're rejected, sometimes you're not. I've been rejected at GitHub before I worked at GitHub. So I think my biggest tip is don't be discouraged, because sometimes it's just like requirements changing, or this is really true for any big company. Requirements changing, or there were too many applications and they had to just like go for the first few hundred that applied, or things like that. Do you have any tips on becoming a successful programmer? Don't try to understand every single nuance of a programming language right away. You don't need to. Kind of try to just keep coding and practicing, because the more you program, the more you develop software, the more you build things, the difficulty kind of stays the same. You just kind of get more tools in your toolbox as you work, and you know how to solve problems in different ways and more ways. Where like a lot of times I feel like the difference between myself, for example, where I've been in the industry for a long time, I just looked at the date and I'm like, that's an over a decade number. But anyway, uh, a lot of times when I compare myself to like a newbie developer, we know a lot of the same languages, we know a lot of the same frameworks. I just know how to fix things a little bit faster because I know so many different ways of fixing things, or so many different ways of solving things. I feel like a lot of more senior engineers, it's less about like they're just really good at coding. A lot of them are, but a lot of them, it's more like I have dealt with this problem before and I know how to solve it because I've dealt with it and it was terrible. So anyway, that. I just heard the term vibe coding from a friend a few weeks ago. It is everywhere. Yeah, it is so much. Oh my goodness. Can you ask a VS Code question? Of course, go for it. Let's see. AI take the wheel. Yeah, there you go. You're from Sao Paulo. Wow. Obrigado. Thanks for coming. You should know there is a Portuguese version in Brazil of this live stream that's 2 hours earlier. So I think you're in. If I'm correct, I think it's a little after 2 p.m. for you right now. I could be wrong. At noon your time, if I'm correct, that is when the Portuguese live stream is here. But if you want to speak in English with me, I welcome it. Let's see. How do you make an upload system successfully upload files? Oh no, that is unfortunately a generic enough question that I would have to ask so many questions. For example, is it a web app? Are you uploading it to like an S3, or are you uploading it to a Google Drive or something? Or to GitHub even. Like there's so many different places where you might be uploading files, and a lot of times if you're just like loading it in the browser, you'll get some kind of data blob. But unfortunately, once again, this is just generic enough that I don't think I can help you without more information. Let's see, hello. What does GitHub sponsors mean? GitHub sponsors is cool. Let me show you. GitHub sponsors. Let me pull it up so I can show you. It allows you to sponsor your favorite open source developers, and so you can have you can apply for the GitHub sponsors program and stuff, and enable sponsorships on your profile. And it's a way to say like, hey, I want to give money to this open source contributor who does a lot of cool things for the community. And really, that's it. That's the fastest way that I can describe it. I will paste it. It's at github.com/sponsors. Let's see. Blammo. You can check out more there. It's a really, really cool program to be able to sponsor the open source maintainers that you care about and the projects that you want to keep up. Okay, let's see. Um, does GitHub use Elixir for backend? No, they do not. I think it's actually mostly Ruby, and I think there's some Go in there as well. I might be making up the Go part, but I think it's mostly Ruby. I don't think I'm making up the Go part. I think it's Ruby and Go, but it also depends on the team that you work on. But I know that they don't use Elixir. I know some companies that use Elixir for a backend like remote.com, and then Knock, the notification service. I think it's knock.app. I know they use Elixir, but does GitHub hire remote? Yes, but only for certain roles and in certain hubs. But yes. There's no junior dev roles currently. There are some types. Like I know that we were hiring junior developers like 3 weeks ago, so the role might be down now because they got a lot of applications. But that is they do sometimes, and I know that we have internships and stuff too for students as well. It just depends on when you apply and what you can see. Between front end and back end development, what's easier to learn? I think it depends on how your brain works because they're both different. And I know for myself, I started as a back end developer before switching over to front end, and I liked being able to focus on like the visual side of things. But there are times when I would miss things on the backend side where it's like, okay, all the tests pass. I can just move on to the next thing because it was more like test-driven development and stuff. You can't do that as much with front end. So it kind of just depends on like the languages that you want to learn and the things that you like to do. And I know it depends is not helpful, but think of something that you want to build and build it and then decide if that was a good experience for you. Where like one of the things that I built when I was very early on learning backend stuff was I built a Whitney Houston API, and it was all like how do I use this data to set up a whole little service thing to be able to say like, okay, at this URL when you ping it, you get this Whitney Houston song or like the year of the song or something. This was a long time ago, so I'm probably watching it. But anyway, that was a fun thing for me. But then when I was learning about how to build websites more and figure out how to make pages performant and stuff, that was more interesting to me. And so I found it was easier for me to learn because it was more interesting for me. And so once again, I think it depends on how your brain works. Let's see. Do I depend on AI to fix your bugs most of the time? No. But that's also because I really like doing things myself. That being said, if I get to a point in my code where I'm so frustrated and I just can't figure out a bug, I am very willing to just open up Copilot chat and be like, okay, what's wrong with this? Well, these are the steps that I've tried to solve. I know that it isn't these things. What could it be? And I try to give as much context as possible to show that like I've done the work and like ignore these possibilities. And so most of the time, no. Some of the time, yes. Trying to create an FTP server. Oh, dang. That's awesome. I can't help you with that, and I'm sorry, but it's really cool. Let's see. What are the headphones you're wearing? I'm wearing Hi-Fi Man HE4XX headphones. I like them. I used to confuse you with Cassie from Ant-Man. Wow. Thanks. I am not an ant. Haha. Is there a GitHub repo on GitHub? Yes. In fact, the repo for GitHub on GitHub is literally github.com/github/github. It's a very silly URL. If you are not an employee, you can't access it, so you can try, but yeah. But yeah, we build GitHub on GitHub. Let's see. Which languages should you want to learn data structures and algorithms and where to use it and how to apply on projects? I personally, this is such a personal thing. Once again, depends on you. Depends on the jobs you're going for, depends on how your brain works. I like being able to use a lot of curly braces, brackets, explicit things because that's how I learned how to code. And so whenever I do anything data structures and algorithms wise, I do it in Java. Some people might hear that and want to throw up. Some people would rather do it in Python. Some people would rather just do pseudocode or Ruby or JavaScript or something. It depends on you. I personally do it in Java because I feel like it is more of a low level language where I can get an idea across at a very, very base level without importing libraries that do stuff for me. Um, but once again, to each their own. There, that depends. Let's see. You heard, oh, for GitHub, it was a Ruby monolith a while back. Good to hear Golang additions. Yeah, I I admit I'm not on that side of the fence to working on the actual back end of anything right now, but I know I've seen people do Go things in the office. So, well, but yeah, I know Ruby is definitely the dominant stuff. Let's see. Remix or Next.js? Astro? Um, I hate to just constantly say it depends, but it does. Lately, if I were to have to pick one of them, I'd probably try Remix because it feels like I can control layouts in a bit more of a smart way. Next.js has a lot of batteries included, which is nice, but I feel like because it has so much in it that it ends up being a little bit too bloated for the use cases. So once again, this is another it depends thing. I haven't actually used Next for a project in a minute where I used to be kind of all in on Next and I just wasn't a fan of how they were approaching things after a certain point. And so I mostly use Astro for things these days. And then, yeah, I dabble in Remix and sometimes if I'm feeling really adventurous, I might play with Vue and Nuxt. But uh, yeah, I don't pick up Next as often anymore. Personal preference. It's not that I never use it, but if I were to just do a blind answer to that, I would probably say Remix purely because I like how it works with browser APIs better. Eh? Eh? Eh. Okay. Let's see. Do you have any updates on your React Native journey? Yeah, I've actually really been liking React Native. So I admit the app that I've been working on, it's very broken right now. I could not even share my screen. I broke something last night and I was like, I need to step away. I've tangled something up a little bit too much because I tried to redo a bunch of things to be more aligned with Expo, the React Native framework, which I really like. It's a very cool framework. I like it a lot, but I don't know what I'm doing. And so I'm kind of trying to figure out, okay, what did I mess up? How do I fix it? But it's been very nice because React Native is React just for like a different platform where there are little nuances that were hard for me to understand. For example, like you can't just have a string in a component, it has to be wrapped in a text component, things like that, where it's not the end of the world, just like little nuances you have to learn. But in terms of like the hooks that you use, how you manage state, context, stuff like that, it's the same. And so it's actually been kind of delightful to use because it feels different when you're looking at a native mobile app on your phone versus a browser, even though it's the same code base and generally the same thing. Um, I personally, in general, prefer web development just because of accessibility of information and web applications and everything. But it's been very, very fun to play with React Native. I've been having a really good time, and I'm hoping so I can show you the app that I've been working on. I've talked about it a little bit on this stream, but I it's so broken. It's so broken. But it's been fun. I've liked it a lot. What's your role at GitHub? My like fancy title is Senior Director of Developer Advocacy, but I write code and talks and content stuff. I work specifically on the open source side of things, helping developers use GitHub to build more open source projects. It's very fun. I like it a lot. How much AI written code is being used nowadays? I wish I had numbers. I have no idea. It feels like a whole lot though. I've seen some companies where they've gone like way all in on hosting AI apps and like focusing on the agentic experience versus the developer experience because so much AI stuff has been put out there, but I don't have exact numbers for you. Data structure algorithms in assembly for the win. That that gave me like a feeling. It couldn't be me. Nope, nope, nope. What front end framework does GitHub use? React. I know that some of it is just straight up Ruby templates. Some of like the older things, and a lot of things are being converted to React so that way it can be more modernized. But I'm like fairly certain all new things are React, and everything that's not React is like a Ruby template. I think. Don't quote me too hard on that. I'm like fairly certain. What are some of the best resources to learn about performance and security? Honestly, Microsoft Learn has been very impressive. I sound like such a shill with like working for a Microsoft owned company, but I've been looking at it more lately purely because it's just been there. Like it's very in my face. But for example, let's just say you want to learn about like RAG, the what's it called? The AI thing. Oh my gosh. What does RAG stand for? Retrieval Augmented Generation. Anyway, let's just say you want to learn about that for funsies. They just released this whole free course for that, and they just have GitHub repos full of courses. And so they have things on performance, they have things on different algorithms and stuff, on different practical things, and it's been very impressive to see. Where once again, I know how biased I sound when I suggest a Microsoft Learning resource, but it's been pretty nice. Okay, let's see. I am catching up on the chat. The new TypeScript interpreters are being written in Golang. Yeah, no, I thought that was really interesting, especially because I feel like everybody. The moment I read that, I was like, people are going to wonder why it wasn't written in Rust. But I feel like after reading a lot of takes on it, Go seems like a good angle. I admit I personally don't like writing Go. It feels just close enough to C++ for me, and I loathe C++ with a passion. That I'm not a huge fan, but it's such a nice language to read, and it is like very performant and stuff. So, yeah. Aquí ando sin entender. Oh, I will try to not speak too quickly so that way you can learn more. Puedo hablar en español, pero estamos in GitHub and I need to speak in English so that way it can be more global. Let's see. What are Next and Remix? Oh, these are their web frameworks. Their Next is specifically a React framework. Remix is a framework built on React Router, but you can do Remix with other frameworks now. But I haven't tried. But they are web frameworks to help you build web applications. Let's see. Do you have any ideas on how someone could move to a different language? Say they get an opportunity in Go from being in Java for a good while. Yeah. Luckily, I think a lot of companies know that if you know a language, you could probably do another language. Where, for example, when I worked for Remote for a little bit, remote.com, I mentioned that their backend is in Elixir. They had like a little boot camp training program where it was like, we know you probably haven't used Elixir before because it's not a popular language, but they hire people based on like their competency in whatever their chosen language is. And so they have like a boot camp dedicated for, X language, here's how you get to learning Elixir. And so similarly for like after being in Java for a while going into Go, I think like it is helpful to do open source projects and contribute where you can. If a company is just like, no, we need someone who's like really, really good at Go, that's hard to pitch unless you can really prove it with either a big open source project or work experience. Something worth trying, um, which depends on where you're working currently or what you're doing currently. Sometimes you could ask your company to say, hey, could we try building this tool in another language where I think it would be more performant to try Rust, or it would be valuable for the team to understand like X technology, XYZ technology, where then you can get like professional experience in that language, but it's on like a smaller project that is less high risk for your current employer. I've seen it done. Your mileage may vary, but that's an option. I'd say that personally, I think the best way to move to a different language is to do open source, but I'm also very biased in that because, again, I work at GitHub specifically with open source developers. Do I like scripting too? Do you mean programming scripting or video scripting? Because I prefer programming scripting, but I do video scripting depending on what I need to do. Eclipse versus IntelliJ. It's hard to say. I haven't used Eclipse in like 12 years, so I don't know. But as I put on my very good employee hat, Copilot is available in VS Code, IntelliJ, and Eclipse, so you can use it however you'd like, whatever you want, and all that. I don't know. I usually use VS Code or Vim, and so I couldn't really answer that question well. Can I access your private repos? I cannot. I'm sorry. Let's see. Have you tried C# lately? Not super recently. There's a glasses joke in here. I'm trying to remember the last time I tried C#. I actually did try C# in the past like year, but not on anything like production level. I haven't done C# in a really long time, since like, oh no, since 2012. I think that was the last time I wrote like a lot of C#. So I'm sure a lot has changed, but I've heard good things. I just haven't done it in a minute. Let's see. You learned COBOL on the fly. Good for you. That's hardcore. Insurance or finance? I feel like those are like the main industries that really hold on to COBOL. Let's see. React or Redux, both are more popular. So Redux works with React. Redux is state management for React. And so let's just say you have a React application and you don't want to necessarily use like the built-ins with context and stuff for sharing state across components, not using props and using prop drilling. Redux is a way of storing state across a larger application. And so React is, for which is more popular, it's React because React is the big library for building user interfaces, but Redux works directly with React for state management. Redux is optional in a React application, but React is not optional in a Redux application, if that makes sense. Like, you can't have Redux without React, unless they've made Redux libraries for other frameworks, which they probably have. But yeah, Redux does state management for React. Let's see. Can you get hired at GitHub as a fresher? Depends on the roles that are available. Well, my camera just did a little focus thing. Ooh, ah. Um, Depends on the roles that are available. There are internships and there are junior roles and like apprenticeships, but you have to apply for those roles. It's hard to say anything beyond that. Apply when you see the roles available. Have a job alert set up. Let's see. I know React syntax and concepts, but when I try to create a project, I'll just sit blank. And then when I ask AI to look at the code, it looks simple. Any tips to overcome this? That's real. I feel like that is something that I personally experience when I have too many big ideas. You need to break something down into something much smaller, where you need to say like, okay, I need to create a to-do list app. You might think like, okay, well, there are to-do list items, there's the list itself, there's adding new to-do list items, editing to-do list items, deleting those items, and just editing them in general. It's very daunting when you have something that large in front of you. And so I start with, okay, I need to make a list item. I need to make a to-do list item. Cool. We'll put it in as we'll make a component for a list item. It will be a bullet point that needs to go into a list. We'll then make a list item thing where items go inside of there. Then we need to be able to add things to the list. We can have state that manages what are all of the list items that should be in there. And so like you, a lot of times when I see questions like these or when I see vibes like these, it's usually some kind of mind block because you're thinking too big and you need to break things up into smaller bits. And that will get better with practice, where it could be just like, I know the concepts in theory, but why can't I just write the code? This is hard. Because coding can be hard. And until you get that practice and the iterations under your belt where it's just like, okay, I know as soon as I go into here, these are the things I need to import, these are the components I need to make, it can be challenging. And don't compare yourself to AI, for example, because first of all, there's the quote, comparison is the death of joy, but also you want to be able to build these things without these tools, because you never know when the tools will change or when the tools will have opinions that don't align with yours or build things in a way that you're not sure how to maintain. And so really the super short answer to what I just said is practice and break things down. Let's see. We're wearing the same clear glasses? Nice. These are actually my computer glasses. Full disclosure, I got LASIK, and so I can see. But yeah, it's nice to have the blue light blocking sometimes. How to make web components easier? Like easier to build or read or good question. I think web components are something that are very neat and is honestly, I genuinely think is the future of how components will be built on websites without any libraries or frameworks getting in the way. That being said, right now, because they are not as popular and like lightly supported, it's very like traditional JavaScript classes and attaching functions to objects or methods rather. It's hard to answer that question beyond that, but I hope practice. The end. Oh, the core Redux library is framework agnostic. There you go. I was wrong. Exactly, though. I think that's the same thing with Remix, where like I think Remix's language is framework agnostic too, but at the same time, it's made for React. Same with Redux. How many languages have I tried? Nice. That's a good list. I couldn't tell you. A lot. But I really like JavaScript, and so I kind of just stick with that unless I have to do something else. Let's see. Ironically, the example of a to-do list AI might do well at just because all developers, yeah, have made to-do list apps as the default hello world. I know, yeah, you gotta try something unique, but to-do list is a nice and easy way of saying, or not easy, but it's a good base example. Let's see. For web components, you can use Stencil.js. I've heard good things about Stencil. I've never tried it, but a friend of mine was using Stencil somewhat recently and was just raving about how nice it was to build components with. Um, Trying to move from fast to shoelace. I don't know what shoelace is. Ooh, is shoelace JS? A forward-thinking library of web components. How about that? Works with all frameworks, works with CDNs. Oh, that's nice. Built-in localization, open source, love it. Okay, so you made a button. Oh, wow. Okay, so you can import just these two lines, then you have all of the shoelace components. That's cool. I want to look at some of the components they have. An alert. Neat. Cute. That's kind of okay. I get it. A color picker. Ooh. I don't see colors. Haha, it doesn't work. It's broken. I might have just picked a funky one. Oh, wait, there it is. Oh, wait, that's really nice. I wonder why it took so long to load, though. That's a nice color picker, though. This color picker alone, I'm going to bookmark this. That's nice. Image comparer. Oh, is this one of those like sliding thingies? It's again kind of slow to load. Is that on the library or is that on my internet? I'm really hoping it's on the library. But anyway, neat concept. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's nice. That's cool. You could do some fun things with that. Okay, cool. I'm sold on it as a concept. Not sold on the speed, but I'm once again pretty sure that that's something on my end. But oh wait, this is the Web Awesome thing. Oh, okay. I remember seeing this Web Awesome thing. If y'all didn't see it, the Font Awesome folks, Font Awesome, they make icons and everything. Web Awesome was their web components framework. And so Web Awesome is the next iteration of Shoelace. Got it. Okay. Cool. Interesting. I will look more into this later, but that's neat. Let's see. Have you read JavaScript The Good Parts? I have not, but I did go to a talk and a workshop by the author. And it was very interesting. He approached JavaScript in a way that like kind of messed with my brain because he made it very like functional programming style. But I think that was a good thing to like understand some of the nuances of JavaScript in that way. But yeah, Shoelace is really nice. It's just a bit of a lift and shift between paradigms. Yeah, for sure. Bootstrap, classic stuff. Love Bootstrap. And it still is around. It's definitely not as popular. You can tell when someone's using Bootstrap, but it really was like the blueprint for so many frameworks. .NET and React. Ooh, you're building something with .NET and React. Nice. I want to try more .NET stuff because it's a very popular framework for things. Where I first started using it, oh gosh, this was back when I was doing C#. So this was 2012 or so, and it was really nice to be able to serve up pages and do a lot of logic in that way, like ASP.NET stuff. But yeah, I haven't tried it with React ever, and I am curious about that as a concept. Yeah, I'm gonna drink some water. But what else are y'all up to? Do you have any more questions? This is one of those streams where I was intending to code, but I also like answering your questions, so I'm happy to do that too. Let's see. Oh, you're using TanStack. I missed this comment before. I've heard good things about TanStack. That's another one that I haven't tried yet, TanStack Query and then TanStack Router, but I've heard that it's very nice and performant. Have you visited India? I haven't. I was supposed to in 2020, but then the pandemic happened, and so someday, it's not that easy to get across the world these days, but someday. Bootstrap was a Twitter product, correct? Yes. Oh yeah, it was. I think it preceded React. When did Bootstrap come out? I'm gonna look that up. When did Bootstrap come out? Yes, it did. 2011. Man, good times. And it is still a thing. Because React really came on the scene. It was technically 2013, but I don't think people were really using it until 2014. But yeah, 2011 for Bootstrap. And it's still a thing. You can use a package manager as a CDN. You used to only be able to use a CDN back in my day. Oh, man. Good times. I want to see some of their examples now. Oh, what'd I do? Oh, I see. I don't want to clone that. I was hoping I could just look at a website. Oh, there you go. It's gotten more modern. Like, it's still bootstrappy, but like that's still nice. I like it. But yeah, this was like the original. This truly was the before its time, ahead of its time, all the times. Good job, Bootstrap. You've served the internet well. Say someone is late in the AI game but wants to work on and build AI models and tools themselves. Where does someone start? You want to build a model yourself? So these are very different skills. I would say building an AI tool on top of AI models is probably going to be more of a good time than building a model itself. Because building a model itself means that you got to just like actually get a ton of data and then do something with it. Where you could build a model like a basic one yourself, I'd say probably the easiest, or at least the one that will kind of get you in the right mindset, would probably be some kind of Markov chain. But building a model yourself might not be the route you want to take if you are feeling late in the AI game, but you want to do something. Building AI tools, though, there's so many options, and I think that's something that is exciting, because you can use a lot of APIs that exist now to start building a tool and then get more granular with it. Where, for example, let's just say you want to build something with image recognition. There's companies like Clarify, there's companies like RoboFlow that have really nice image recognition libraries, and you can use their APIs to build some cool AI tools around image recognition. Similarly with LLMs, all of the OpenAIs and Anthropic Claudes of the world have APIs where you could build tools on top of those. Audio, similarly, you could generate audio or ingest audio. There's a lot of different options there, and so this is starting to teeter into it depends territory. But I would say, as a GitHub employee, something you might want to consider is messing around with agents and seeing how you can build agentic extensions, where I feel like AI agents is a very loosely defined term right now, but think of it as like an AI tool that does a specific task. There are APIs and things that you could do with GitHub, for example, right now, where you could say, like, I want to be able to create this kind of agent that does this specific thing with these prompts or these data sources. And it provides a nice interface for you to be able to build one of those and then build on top of it. For one example of that is Sentry. Sentry has an extension in GitHub Copilot where you can do a bunch of like debugging directly in VS Code and stuff that is attached to Copilot and very like nice and AI-y. Another good example is Launch Darkly. They have like a feature flag extension where you can control all of your feature flags with natural language and just using the GitHub Copilot chat in VS Code without ever actually having to go to the Launch Darkly website to make feature flags and stuff. So there's a lot of like services and tools you can build with AI on top of things and get like that agentic AI stuff on your resume. That would probably be handy to get started, and then you can get more deep over time, if that makes sense. This really did sound like an it depends answer, but I hope that was helpful to at least give you some tidbits of things that you can do. Let's see. Hello. They just released a bunch of stuff for Solid. Oh, Redux did? Nice. Fascinating. Yeah, class-based React, then onto functional components. Oh yeah, React. I'm not sure what you're saying or if you're just like discussing, but yeah, I first started using React myself in 2014 when everything was very, very class-based. And then it became particularly function-based when hooks came out in 2016. And eventually class-based was fully just pushed out, where you would still need it for error boundaries, but besides that, it was very function-based after that. Hooks, am I right? I love the themes that you can slap on top of Bootstrap. Yeah. Let's see. What do you think? Sooner or later, AI will replace developers. I think not necessarily. And there was actually a really good blog post I read from Laurie Voss relatively recently. Let me find his blog really quick because I think he literally just published this. Yeah, he did. And I will share this blog in here where it's like AI's effects on programming jobs. He has a lot of very good graphs and things that you can check out to see this post. But it's like will AI take all the programming jobs or will AI take nobody's jobs? And then they're like two extreme takes, but long story short, nuance exists. I don't think that AI will replace developers. I think it will make developers have to think in different ways, which is how all tools work. And I think people are afraid because they have their cushy tech jobs. But if you think about when calculators came out, people were like, but wait, what about all of the people who do math? And like, if you've ever seen the movie Hidden Figures, you know this, but if you haven't, a lot of the people before computers were a thing, the people who did all of the intense math calculations were literally called computers. That was their job title. And then all of a sudden computers became machines and you didn't get computer jobs anymore. It turns into different styles of work. I don't think it means that you can't do the same kind of work, but I think it'll be a different style of work. You still need to do the logical thinking of programming, but you might apply it in a different way. And then there's also going to be just a whole lot of spam on the internet, which we're already seeing, the slop, which I probably shouldn't talk about as an employee of a company that is working very hard to put AI in so many different places. But wait, there you go. It'll make a bunch of new jobs for contractors to agencies that specialize in fixing garbage AI code. There was a thread that went viral, I think yesterday, maybe 2 days ago, that I'm still kind of like, ha 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 ha, my job is safe for a little while longer, where someone was just like, I was able to make a full SaaS and I'm making money because I built it with AI. I'm not technical, but the AI did it for me. And then ever since they tweeted that, they then tweeted later saying like, I'm under attack. all of a sudden I'm hitting usage limits and I'm getting all of these like spam signups because they ended up just committing a bunch of keys into their repo because they didn't know, because they were just kind of doing whatever the AI tools were telling them to do. And so there's still a lot of human knowledge that needs to be in programming, where yes, the AI tools will improve, but I think the humans will only improve at this point because we have to. And it means that the style of work that we do will be different, but we will still have work, at least for the foreseeable future, you know? Hey. I've heard tech is hard to get into right now. Is that because of COVID hires or AI or both? Your thoughts? I think that it is not because of AI. I think it is because of the state of the economy. I think that, how do I put this? I think that it is a weird market right now, but there are still lots of jobs, just not necessarily in the traditional places that you might expect. For example, I know some people where they're just like, wait, it was very easy for me to get a job in tech, but it's because they were applying for jobs not at traditional tech companies. They were applying for jobs at like food companies and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of jobs out there still. I do think that tech is hard to get into right now because the economy is weird and people are nervous about what's going to happen next. There's a lot of unknowns in the world, where in like 2021, 2022, when VC money was flowing and stuff, people were hiring and throwing lots and lots of money at things that they didn't necessarily need to, and now they're afraid because if stocks go down and the shareholders, how will we afford things? But I don't think it's because of AI. Maybe it contributes to some of it, but I don't think it contributes as much as one would think. I think it's just a funky economy right now is making it harder. That being said, all job applications, playing the game, it's a numbers game. You apply to as many jobs as you can. You will probably get rejections, and the more jobs you apply to, the more likely it is you get a role. It's interesting how the term AI has changed meaning so much in the past decade. Yeah, I agree. I've been talking to some people about that, being like, we shouldn't just call this AI because that doesn't mean anything. You have to say like an AI tool or a large language model specifically, or like a machine learning algorithm. It's definitely a more blanket term right now. Let's see, learning a new programming language became pretty hard after AI popped up. In what way, if you don't mind my prodding you on that? Because I feel like, if anything, it made it easier because I could ask questions a little bit faster and be just like, okay, why doesn't this work? Okay, cool. Now I've learned that and I can move on. But like I feel like if anything, there's more learning tools nowadays. But I'm curious to see why you think that. Is there any centralized website where I could find JavaScript-based open source projects? I was hoping to participate but couldn't get a well-structured doc or blog. I think JavaScript is very, very broad to ask this question. No, I guess. If you go to the GitHub Explore page, I know that there's ways to explore GitHub repos there. Where if let me pull that up really quick. If you were to go to github.com/explore, you can explore a bunch of different repositories and see like what are the trending repositories of the day, what's some interesting content that you might be interested in, and then you could see like based on certain topics, you could say I specifically want to look at things that are under React, and then when you click on a different topic, you could see like, okay, here's repos matching this topic with sorted by the most stars or things like that. That's a good way of doing it on GitHub if you'd like. Eh, but, saying, like, just JavaScript projects, it's a little too broad to ask. Can someone get a developer job without a college degree? Yes. Why do big companies ask for data structures and algorithms instead of development skills in daily life? Um, because they are so big, they have to ask things in as generic a way as possible. Where smaller companies will ask more practical questions because they need someone for a more specific job. But someone at a very large tech company, they might say, we need someone who could do this kind of job, and this kind of job will apply to these 10 teams at our company. So they need to pass a certain bar of generic programming question to be able to be on one of these teams. I'm not saying that's right, but I'm saying that's why they ask for data structures and algorithms. I don't like it, but right now, that's how the world works, and that's what you got to study if you want to get in a big company early on. Let's see. Yeah, AI existing doesn't stop anyone from doing or learning things the pre-AI way. Yeah, no, that's what I was saying about learning things before. Like, if anything, I find it easier to learn because it's just more resources available to me, but it can kind of depend on you. But yeah, you can still learn things however you'd like. The more you code, the more experience you acquire, and the more everything falls in line as far as DSA and coding questions. Yeah, like practice really does make perfect. It's one of those things where when I tell people like you do have to do like those lead code questions, those HackerRank questions, they kind of go like, oh, why? It's like when you're in school and you're like, I don't want to learn calculus. This doesn't make sense. You never know when it'll come up. It's a method of thinking. It's a high level thing where it gives you some baseline knowledge for something you might use in the future. Unfortunately, I don't even want to call it a necessary evil, but that's just how things are right now. All right. I've noticed the time. I got to go to another meeting, but it was lovely chatting with all of you. It's been a very, very fun time. I stream every Thursday here, and we have various streams throughout the day. There's one at 10 a.m. GMT, which is 10 hours ago or so. If you are in Europe, and that's more of a UK, EU friendly stream time, there's also a Brazilian Rubber Duck Thursday that is. Oh, I should really know the time zones off the top of my head, but it's also on Thursdays. It's on the GitHub Brazil channel in Portuguese, and it's 3 hours ago from now. And then we have this. And so here to answer questions, plop in the comments. The recording for this, if you want to see the recording for this, is on GitHub's YouTube channel. You can pop any comments in there. We do read them if you have any questions about anything or any suggestions, things you want to see for next time. We're also, I know this is streaming on LinkedIn as well. I can't see those comments as easily just because I'm not in charge. So anyway, I'll see you next week. Hopefully we can continue answering questions, learning different things, and keep coding, y'all. It's been fun. I hope you have a great rest of your week, a good weekend, and we will see you later. Bye.